Welcome to Gavin Fun Facts, where the world's strangest truths come to light. Ready to learn something unbelievable?
Behind the bustle of daily life, behind the cities filled with lights, behind the endless sound of vehicles crossing paths, lies one enormous truth about this planet that humans rarely realize. Earth is never still. Even on the quietest night, when the air only whispers and the waves gently brush the shore, Earth continues to move, to work, to change, and to breathe like a giant living creature that never sleeps. If you place your hand on the ground with your eyes closed, you might not feel it, but deep within, in the darkness untouched by light, the Earth keeps dancing. It spins on its axis at more than 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator. It travels along its orbit around the Sun at an even more astonishing speed, about 107,000 kilometers per hour. And all of this happens without us feeling like we're speeding through space inside a planet-sized cosmic capsule. Imagine sitting at the edge of the beach at night. A soft breeze touches your cheek. The waves come and go rhythmically, like the long, steady breath of an ocean that never tires. As you gaze at the dark horizon, you might feel as though the world has stopped. Yet at that moment, you are moving thousands of kilometers per hour through outer space. This is one of the greatest wonders we often forget. The calmness we feel doesn't mean the world is still. It is simply Earth embracing us from the outside so we can feel safe. Another fascinating fact is that Earth is constantly reshaping itself. The continent you stand on now was not always in the same place. It did not always look like this. Millions of years ago, the world's landmass was one giant block called Pangaea. Over time, it cracked and split apart like thin ice on a lake surface, slowly drifting away from each other because of tectonic plate movement. What's even interesting, this movement is still happening today. Each year, the continents shift a few centimeters, the same rate as human fingernails grow. If you've ever wondered why some mountains keep getting taller or why certain regions are prone to earthquakes, the answer lies in this eternal motion. It is like a long, unseen breath, like a pulse deep beneath the planet's skin. At night, these changes continue. The peaceful mountains may be growing ever so slightly. Oceanic plates may be shifting slowly. The seafloor may be forming new crust through streams of molten lava, blisteringly hot yet hidden thousands of meters below the waves. The world is quiet, but still at work. Earth also has its own music, sounds humans cannot hear without special instruments. Scientists call this phenomenon the Earth hum, a constant, low-frequency vibration that echoes throughout the planet, even without earthquakes, storms, or any major activity. This hum is like a natural rhythm reminding us that Earth is a living system that is never truly silent. But perhaps the most comforting fact is the realization that our survival is governed by a harmony far greater than ourselves. From gravity that keeps us from being flung into space to the thickness of the atmosphere that protects us from small meteors and deadly radiation, everything is part of the planet's orchestration that has been running for billions of years. Even the cycle of day and night, something we take for granted, is the result of Earth's stable and consistent rotation. When the sun sets and the sky turns into a palette of orange and purple, we are simply moving to the night side of the planet. And while we sleep, the other side of the world awakens. It's as if Earth takes turns watching over us, giving each part its moment to rest. If you've ever felt small in this vast world, remember that you are part of this extraordinary mechanism. You walk on a planet born from a star that exploded billions of years ago. Your body is made of atoms that may have once been part of ancient rocks, the early oceans, or even prehistoric creatures. You are part of a history so immense it defies full understanding, yet gentle enough for us to appreciate on a quiet night like this. Every time you take a deep breath before you sleep, the air filling your lungs is a mix of oxygen released by plants, nitrogen that has remained stable for millions of years, and tiny particles that may have traveled across oceans and deserts. Earth shares all of this softly, as if saying, "You're safe here. I've been doing this for billions of years." And that is the wonder of Earth that often goes unnoticed. This planet is strong, active, and dynamic, yet it provides a gentle space where we can sleep peacefully each night. We live on a planet that is constantly moving, yet we feel still. We live on a planet that is ever-changing, yet we experience calm. Behind all the cosmic facts and motions lies a beauty that soothes the heart. Earth works tirelessly so we can rest. The night grows deeper, and if you close your eyes now, you might feel just a hint of the planet's rhythm. The rhythm that existed long before the first human was born, and will continue to beat long after we drift into sleep tonight. To the vast world that covers more than 70% of this planet's surface, the ocean. Not just a mass of salt water, not merely the birthplace of storms and waves, but a gigantic system that governs nearly every aspect of life. The ocean is the heart of this planet, beating slowly but surely, maintaining balance like a night watchman who never sleeps. When night falls, the sea appears calm, dark, and as if it slumbers with us. But in truth, far beneath the surface, there is an eternal dance that has continued since life first appeared billions of years ago. Massive currents move from one continent to another, carrying heat, nutrients, and energy. The sea rises and falls, pulled by the moon's gravity, creating tides that act as a natural rhythm for millions of coastal creatures. And all of this happens without sound, without drama, only gentle, invisible motion. Since Earth was young, when its surface was covered in molten lava and its sky filled with volcanic dust, water has been the force shaping the future. When temperatures began to drop and the atmosphere stabilized, water vapor slowly condensed and fell as unending rain for thousands of years. Earth finally formed its primordial oceans, vast bodies of water that laid the foundation for all life. Imagine a night on the shore millions of years ago. No humans, no city lights, only a sky full of stars and waves breaking the silence. On that calm surface, tiny molecules began meeting, merging, and forming something that had never existed before: life. No grand drum beats announcing its arrival, no magical glow. Life began quietly, as gentle as the night breeze. Now, whenever you hear the sound of crashing waves, remember that the sound is an echo from an ancient, ancient past, as if the ocean is whispering, "I've been here since the world was young." Here's a fascinating fact. The ocean is Earth's natural temperature regulator. Without it, this planet would become an extreme world like Mars or Venus. The sea absorbs heat when temperatures rise and releases it slowly when temperatures fall, maintaining a balance that allows humans to sleep peacefully each night without worrying that the world will suddenly grow too hot or too cold. Major ocean currents, like the Gulf Stream, even act like a blanket for certain continents, Without them, Europe might be as cold as Siberia, and many coastal regions would be uninhabitable. The ocean does all of that, quietly, without ever asking for praise. On certain nights, if you're on a beach far from city lights, you may witness something that looks like magic, glowing blue water as the waves break. This is bioluminescence, natural light produced by tiny organisms called dinoflagellates. They flicker in response to movement, creating a breathtaking sight, as if the ocean is smiling softly at the world. Moments like this remind us that nature hides little gifts for anyone willing to be still and notice them. But the ocean is not just a calm surface. In the deep, where sunlight never reaches and pressure can crush steel, life still thrives. There are eyeless fish, glowing jellyfish, and strange creatures that live off geothermal heat. This underwater world is dreamlike, a part of our planet so alien, yet still part of the same Earth we stand on. And although we rarely think about it, the ocean also sustains our breath. More than half of Earth's oxygen is produced by marine plankton, microscopic organisms that drift with the waves and tides. They work endlessly, filtering carbon, producing oxygen, and keeping our atmosphere livable. So every time you breathe before you sleep, much of that air comes from tiny creatures living in the sea. In the darkness of night, when the ocean's surface is lit only by the moon, all these processes continue. Currents move, plankton make oxygen, waves carry energy from one place to another. The ocean keeps working to ensure life on land remains stable. And just like the previous chapter, there's one truth that makes this story calming. The ocean works without being commanded, without needing to be seen. It guards this planet naturally, with a rhythm almost like meditation. A fact humans rarely realize is that the ocean is incredibly sensitive to change. Though it appears strong and vast, its balance is easily disturbed. A slight rise in temperature can alter the giant currents that have kept our climate stable for thousands of years. Yet even as changes occur, the ocean still tries to restore itself, like someone taking a long breath to regain calm after a storm. In many ways, the ocean teaches us an important lesson. Calmness does not mean the absence of strength. Soft water can shape rock, carve valleys, even move continents over geologic time. Enduring calm is a quiet form of power. And at the peak of night, when the waves only whisper and the sea breeze carries a soft, salty scent, there is something about the ocean that makes us feel safe. Perhaps because we know the world has survived countless nights before us, and the ocean has always been there to watch over it.
After understanding how the ocean keeps the rhythm of life, now we slowly lift our heads and look upward. Above us stretches something that appears light and thin, yet is actually one of the most important structures ever to exist, Earth's atmosphere. A massive blanket that wraps around the planet, keeping life safe, warm, and stable. Imagine lying down at night, gazing at the sky. The stars look tiny, like points of light piercing the dark curtain. But what your eyes cannot see is the protective layer shielding us from the cold of space, from deadly sunlight, and from cosmic rocks speeding toward us at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. The atmosphere is a silent guardian. It makes no sound. It does not move aggressively, yet it works endlessly, every second, blocking threats that come our way. The first layer we feel is the troposphere, the home of clouds, winds, rain, and the air we breathe. This is the layer where life unfolds. Here, birds fly, storms are born, and the scent of rain greets us whenever the sky grows heavy. The troposphere gives us weather, yet it also helps maintain comfortable temperatures around us. Imagine if the troposphere didn't exist. Daytime would feel like being roasted, and nighttime would be freezing cold. Extreme temperature differences would make life impossible to survive. But because this layer exists, nights become gentle, breezes flow softly, and temperatures remain pleasant, even while the world sleeps. Higher than the troposphere is the stratosphere, the home of ozone, the great filter of light. The ozone layer is the reason we can walk under the sun without our skin burning in seconds. Ozone absorbs the harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Without it, Earth's surface would be sterile, dry, and toxic. But because ozone works tirelessly, we can enjoy the warmth of sunlight without fearing the unseen danger. Interestingly, the ozone layer weakened a few decades ago, but when humans realized what was happening and took collective action, the layer began to heal. This is one of the proofs that the atmosphere is not only a protector, it is responsive, adaptive, and capable of healing when given the chance. Farther above lies the mesosphere, where meteors, tiny rocks from space, burn up before reaching the ground. Every night, without us noticing, thousands of small meteors enter the atmosphere and disintegrate before they even get close to the surface. Without this layer, we might have to dodge cosmic stones falling from the sky every day. When a larger meteor passes by, we often see it as a shooting star. In truth, it is proof of the atmosphere's hard work. The mesosphere is a fiery fortress, burning threats before they reach life below. And above everything stands the thermosphere, a thin layer that shields Earth from the sun's radiation and is home to the auroras. The beautiful green, purple, and red lights dancing in the polar sky are the atmosphere's way of fighting off high-energy particles from the sun. Aurora is protection transformed into beauty. The atmosphere works like a guardian that is not only strong, but also gentle. It protects us from deadly threats, yet it does so quietly, elegantly, even beautifully. At night, the atmosphere also acts as a natural lullaby. The soft sound of wind brushing through leaves, the darkened sky that dims the world so we can relax, the cooling temperature that soothes the body, all are small roles that make life feel peaceful. The atmosphere creates the perfect space for restful sleep, a part of nature's rhythm designed for the well-being of living creatures. Now imagine a sky without an atmosphere. The moon gives us a clear example. The sky is always black, with no clouds, no wind, and temperatures swinging from scorching heat in the day to freezing cold at night. There is no sound because sound cannot travel without air. No sunsets, no rainbows, no auroras, and of course, no life. The atmosphere is not just a layer of gas. It is art, science, and protection in one form. One of the most remarkable characteristics of the atmosphere is how it moves. Air rises and falls, spins and travels from one part of the world to another. Through these movements, the atmosphere balances temperatures, carrying heat from the tropics to the poles, spreading water vapor that eventually becomes rain in places that desperately need it. The winds we feel are only a tiny part of this giant system. Sometimes wind comes as a gentle touch, sometimes as a strong storm, but every movement plays a crucial role in maintaining Earth's rhythm. Without wind, the oceans would not move, plants would not spread their pollen, and temperatures would never stabilize. The atmosphere is also the home of sound. It is through these layers of air that the crash of waves, the songs of birds, and the whisper of the wind travel from place to place. Imagine a world without an atmosphere. There would be no sound at all. The world would feel silent and alien, like standing inside a vacuum. But because air surrounds us, the world feels alive. At night, these gentle sounds become a natural lullaby that humans have heard since our ancient ancestors. From desert breezes to the chirping of insects in tropical forests, the atmosphere carries all of it like nature's music. The atmosphere also holds the record of Earth's long history. Within it are gases that have changed over hundreds of millions of years, from an atmosphere once rich in carbon to one filled with oxygen thanks to the first plants. Each layer is a timeline, a massive archive, telling how life grew from simple to complex. And of course, the atmosphere shields us from cosmic radiation. Invisible yet deadly rays from outer space are blocked by the magnetosphere and the upper layers of the atmosphere. Without this protection, the DNA of living organisms would be damaged in seconds, preventing life from ever evolving. But the atmosphere absorbs it all for us. When you look at the night sky, you might think the sky is vast and empty, but in reality, it's one of the busiest parts of the planet, full of air currents, energy, light, and protection. By understanding the atmosphere, we realize even more how Earth is built with extraordinary balance. The ocean regulates temperature, the atmosphere protects life, and together they work in harmony. This chapter is the bridge between the life on the surface and the great forces that guard us from above. After the oceans calmed the fury of the young planet and the atmosphere shielded us from the dangers of the sky, Earth slowly entered a new chapter. In this era, life began to shift from mere survival into something far more intricate: the ability to feel, react, and think in simple ways. In this chapter, we explore how life, once tiny, fragile, and nearly invisible, started to evolve into complex creatures that would transform the face of the world. This was the age when living things began to take shape, when cells learned to work together. In the beginning, life consisted only of single-celled organisms, tiny microorganisms drifting in the water with almost no form. They lived simply, dividing, finding food, and avoiding predators. But a great change began when some of them did something that had never been done before. They worked together. These small cells began to gather, forming colonies and slowly becoming multicellular organisms. Each cell started to take on a role. Some digested food, some became protectors, some took charge of movement. From this cooperation, new beings were born, bigger, stronger, and more primitively intelligent. The world was no longer filled only with single living units. Now there were creatures that had bodies, and these bodies continued to evolve, forming simple organs that would one day become the foundation of all modern animals. The emergence of the first senses. As organisms grew larger, they faced a new challenge: how to understand the world around them. For the first time in the history of life, systems that could detect light, pressure, or touch appeared. In the dark ancient seas, light-sensitive cells clustered into tiny spots, the earliest precursors of eyes. Imagine the world then, a deep blue ocean with faint shimmering light and small creatures seeing shadows moving in the distance for the very first time. Vision sparked a massive revolution. Predators could find prey more easily.
prey could escape faster. Evolution accelerated like never before. Alongside vision, touch receptors, primitive nervous systems, and improved mobility emerged. Life was no longer passive. It began to anticipate danger. An explosion of diversity on the seafloor. As life became more complex, the ocean floor grew increasingly crowded. Ancient clams, giant sponges, armored worms, and strange forms of every kind began to appear. Some creatures resembled soft fans filtering the water. Others looked like flattened beings crawling through the sand. Each filled a new role in an increasingly packed world. But among this bustling diversity, one group became the stars, ancient arthropods, the ancestors of insects, spiders, and crustaceans. They developed exoskeletons, outer shells that offered protection and allowed fast movement. Trilobites became one of the most iconic creatures of this era, appearing in countless shapes and sizes and dominating the seafloor. Life grew more colorful, more dynamic, and more competitive. When the first brains appeared, of all the great transitions in the history of life, perhaps none was more monumental than the emergence of the brain. At first, it was just a cluster of simple nerve cells, but gradually it grew to control movement, perception, and decision-making. Living creatures could now learn, remember, and adapt. The arrival of the brain made life more aware. Not aware like humans, but aware enough to recognize patterns, predict threats, and choose direction. This was the foundation of future intelligence. A quiet night in the ancient sea might be filled with the slow movements of a small creature trying to hide from a predator, not purely from instinct, but because its nervous system signaled danger. Life was no longer simply existing, it began to feel. Life tries land for the first time. Although the ocean was life's first home, land slowly began to attract attention. Along the shoreline, microorganisms and algae formed a thin green layer. Without realizing it, they transformed barren soil into a surface full of potential. Colonies of bacteria and ancient fungi began to grow between the rocks. Then some small sea creatures, like primitive snails or worms, crawled onto land, only to return to the water shortly after. They were not ready yet, but the land no longer felt alien. This was the beginning of the great migration that millions of species would later undertake. The land was still quiet, but those small steps became the origin of all modern terrestrial life. A new relationship, the first food chains. As complex creatures grew and evolved, relationships between organisms became more intricate. For the first time in history, the food chain was created. Some became predators, some became prey, others lived as decomposers. This system kept nature in balance. When one group grew too large, predators controlled their numbers. When creatures died, decomposers broke them down and returned nutrients to the environment. Life, once random and simple, now formed cycles that were clean, structured, and harmonious. Nature began to feel organized. The first harmony that built the future. In this era, millions of years before humans, Earth began to develop a stable rhythm of life. Sunrise and sunset dictated feeding patterns in ocean creatures. Ocean currents carried nutrients across vast distances. The atmosphere maintained comfortable temperature. Tiny vegetation on land started improving the soil. Complex creatures became interconnected,
creating the planet's first true ecosystems.
The world has passed through billions of years of change, from molten beginnings, the first oceans, ancient life, to the rise of the giant creatures that once ruled the earth. After all of that, a new era arrived, an era when beings much smaller in body, but far greater in their desire to understand the world, slowly appeared and evolved. They were not the fastest predators, not the best climbers, and certainly not the strongest creatures, but they possessed something that would change the history of the Earth: consciousness. And this is where our journey begins, bro, at the moment when humans started standing tall and became part of this planet's long story. In the softness of the night, imagine a small campfire flickering in the middle of the ancient savanna. Around it, a few early humans sit, bodies still simple, language still limited, but their eyes were full of curiosity. They looked at the fire, the night sky, the sound of the wind, and the tracks of animals that had just passed. They didn't yet know what gravity was, or what stars were, or how the earth rotated, but they sensed that something greater surrounded them. And from that curiosity, the first steps of humanity began. Still in the calming embrace of night, imagine early humans walking behind herds of animals, learning the direction of the wind, observing the changing seasons. They lit fire not only to stay warm, but to illuminate the darkness and protect themselves. Fire became like their first friend, faithful and endlessly useful. Then, as time passed, human generations slowly grew smarter. Their brains evolved not for fighting, but for remembering, observing, and planning. They learned to craft tools from stone, carve wood, weave hides, and hunt together. When humans worked as a group, their strength surpassed any animal on Earth, and the world slowly began to feel their presence. In Africa, the first traces of modern humans spread. In Europe and Asia, they learned to survive harsher climates. And in other continents, they formed different cultures, guided by the lessons nature taught them. But human growth was not just about survival. It was about dreaming. Every night when early humans gazed at the stars, they wondered, who are we? Where did we come from? Why does lightning strike? Why does the sun always return every morning? These questions set humans apart, not merely alive, but driven to understand. From that desire to understand came agriculture. When humans realized plants could grow again if their seeds were buried, they no longer just follow nature, they began to shape it. The first fields appeared, the first crops grew, and the first animals were domesticated. The world changed, slowly but surely. With agriculture, humans no longer needed to wander endlessly. They built homes, small villages, and eventually cities. Cities became places where human stories met: knowledge, mistakes, courage, fear, love, all mixing to form history. From these ancient cities, great structures and civilizations rose. Pyramids were built, grand temples stood tall, sailing ships crossed seas, and writing was created to preserve stories. The world became a stage for humans to learn even more. But the world did not give only progress. It gave lessons too. Erupting volcanoes, great floods, plagues, and droughts reminded humanity that they were not the rulers of Earth, just a small part of its long journey. Every challenge made humans wiser, more aware that the world must be respected, not exploited. Then came the time when humans began to understand nature more deeply, the age of science. From Galileo studying the heavens, Darwin exploring evolution, to modern scientists examining atoms and galaxies. They all brought humanity closer to the mysteries of the universe. You might wonder, bro, is this the end of the world's journey? Quite the opposite. This is the beginning of a new chapter. Today, humans study climate change, warming oceans, thinning forests, and endangered species. The world offers warnings, but also opportunities. Humans now have the ability to heal, not just harm, to restore, not just take. And this, bro, is where the final chapter of our story tonight finds its meaning. The future of the world always returns to humanity itself. Imagine Earth from space, blue, gentle, quiet, and beautiful. Every breath of wind, every ocean wave, every leaf has existed long before humans arrived and will continue long after humans are gone. But for now, the Earth lies in human hands, not completely, but enough to shape its fate. In the silence of the night before sleep, reflect on this. Human beings are the result of billions of years of evolution, millions of years of change, and thousands of years of learning. We are not the rulers of the world. We are its temporary guardians. The Earth asks for little, only to be respected, protected, and remembered as home. And as you close your eyes, remember that the world is still changing. Ice melts, stars drift, continents shift, and humans continue searching for meaning. Our journey is not finished, and perhaps it will never truly end. But for tonight, our journey pauses here. In the embrace of this ancient and wise earth, let your mind rest. Let the gentle voice of the world carry you to sleep, the voice of ancient winds, the first oceans, long-gone dinosaurs, early humans tending their fires, and the earth slowly turning beneath us. Because in the end, bro, we are all tiny parts of the Earth's long story, a story still being written. Rest well. The world has waited a long time to guide you into dreams.